To unpack this a bit more further for us, we now speak to Save the Children Program's Director, Megan Briede, and she joins us now via our video line. Megan, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. I mean, maybe just let's start off with this initiative from Save the Children. What prompted the program Caregiver Learning?
Thank you so much, and thanks for inviting us on your show. I think at the base of it all is understanding that, you know, we need to nurture our children. As explained earlier, the high incidence of abuse, neglect, exploitation, and how do we get parents more actively involved in protecting their children against risk?
And why does it come across as if, you know, when it comes to children's rights in rural communities, as per your research, it shows that, you know, children's rights are not really recognized? Where do we go wrong as a society, particularly in rural communities?
I think our greatest challenge is we always parent how we were parented. So we don't tend to move with how society is changing, and the experiences that our children are having are very different to the experiences we've had. So it's really important that we work with people to help them understand that we need to bring up our children to cope and adapt and be part of a changing society, and particularly in the rural communities where it's still a very traditional society, which we always want to respect, but these are the children that very possibly are the ones who will migrate or into the urban centres, and then that's when more challenges start. Like, how do I cope in a different environment, an environment where all of a sudden I need to have a voice, I need to speak up, I need to be empowered to protect myself, compared maybe to my community where I was maybe safer, and where my parents could control the situation or could control all aspects of my life.
And Megan, when you have conversations, I mean, with your parents or your grandparents, and they would tell you, you know, how they were brought up and how they didn't have a voice, and one would say, you know, especially those in rural communities, are they aware that they are harming children when it seems as if, you know, they hinder children from having some sort of voice?
No, I don't think that anywhere people are deliberately, or a parent, a caregiver, you know, deliberately sets out to harm their child. I think that also what happens very often is we're living in very stressful communities and times. People are struggling to survive. You're filled every day with worries and concerns, and now you have a child, and that child is asking you for attention, for time, for focus, and it becomes really hard to you know, make that shift and realize that, well, no, I actually have to put down some of my issues today and really put all that energy into my child and make that young person feel recognized, heard, because that's what builds your self-esteem. And once your self-esteem is strong, then you're on the path, you're on the right path to you know, a better future.
And when you speak to, you know, parents in rural communities and grandparents in rural communities, you know, what has been their response when it comes to educating them as well, that, you know, children do have rights and they do have a voice?
Overall, we find an overwhelmingly positive response, and it's also because we couple the discussion with rights and responsibilities. So we need to be making that balance. We need to help our older generation in particular understand that it's not just about saying, you know, children have rights, they get everything they want. It's about teaching our children that you have a right and you have an equal responsibility. So, for example, if you have the right to be protected and not beaten when you do something wrong, you also have the responsibility to participate in your family, to abide by the rules, or support your, assist in the home. You know, so if we keep on building that rights and responsibility picture, then you find that parents or caregivers are much more open to saying, okay, let's discuss this further. How can I rather help my child?
And bringing me to my next question, are some willing to change their pattern of parenting? Because sometimes you do have those parents who are a bit stubborn, and they'll tell you that I'm going to bring you up the way I was brought up. Are some willing to have that conversation and are willing to change their parenting style?
I definitely think a lot of people are, but I think the most important thing we need to understand is change doesn't come through one conversation. Change in behavior or what we've learned most of our life is not going to change because I participated in 1 or 2 sessions. So organizations like ours, like SAVE, we have to continue to be in the community, very often with the same parents, the same people, over and over and over again. Having the dialogue and also hearing their voices. Why is it hard for me to make this change? And again there, while we demonstrate hearing their challenge to change, we're demonstrating again, actually just listening to other people, which means you listen to your children, you hear their voice, you hear their struggle. So you normalize it in that way. And I think that then you start seeing change. You don't see it by once-off interventions, for sure.
And why is it so important to continue to having these conversations in our communities? I mean, you are saying that it shouldn't be just a once-off conversation we are having. Why is it so important, to continue to go back to those communities and to see if maybe they've had some sort of progress when it comes to recognizing the rights of children?
Yeah, well, it's the only way that we are going to foster a culture in South Africa where we value our children and where children's rights become enshrined in everything we do, in our practices right at family level, all the way through to government level, of how we prioritize children. So we have to continue talking about it. Otherwise, I think, daily living, life stresses, things overwhelm people and take over, and we forget. And we think it sounds so simple. Love your child, engage with your child, talk to your child. But when the pressure's on, those practices become harder. So we need to be there to support families and to give them the voice to talk where they're struggling. And in that way, we continue to create the nurturing environment for children we want.
All right, Megan, thank you so much for your time. I mean, we've also had to teach some of our parents when it comes to how to parent us in a way, and some of it has been very welcoming on their end. But of course, like you say, it's a continuous conversation to have with the society, with your parents. So very, very important there to highlight. Of course, that's Megan Briede. She is from Save the Children and she's the Programs Director.